What's up, family? It's your boy D.GRAY back again doing this thing I like to do with another take on some scripture I think you might find interesting. But before we get started, smash that like button, that thumbs up button, share and subscribe, people. Let's get this word out to the people that need it. Let me start also by saying that if you don't believe in God, keep it to yourself. Keep it pushing. This video is not for you. Your goofy comments and scoffing is corny. So scroll right past and go look at somebody's plate of food or their 16th selfie of the week. Today, I want to talk about the debate as to what Jesus and God look like. Now, I can almost hear the skepticism oozing through the screen. There's this ongoing conversation that we don't know what God looks like because we can't know that, or what Jesus may have looked like when he was on this planet. The God statement is more palatable only because we're not allowed to gaze upon him without dying, so the Bible says. In Exodus 33 and 18, Moses asked God to show him his glory, and God told him in verse 20 that no man can see him and live. I want to emphasize that the Most High said no man can see him and live. That throws out many doctrines that say any man has seen God and lived. See the Mormon fairy tale on Joseph Smith if you don't believe me. So, to the person who knows how to read with any comprehension, you cannot look upon God and live. Plus, that plays right into this idea that Jesus is God. If Jesus is God, then no one should have been able to look upon him anyway. I don't care what you say about God coming in a physical form. He said no man can look upon him and live. Point blank, period. Any other exegesis of this makes God a liar. So with that all being said, we can accept that probably we don't know what God looks like. But do we? I'll come back to this point a little bit later in the video. But what about Jesus? He lived on this planet and people saw him. And why would we not know what he looked like? Why? It's fair to say that they did not have cameras back then and didn't spend a whole lot of time drawing one another. I'm sure they weren't attending painting sips either in the temple. But I believe it's pure laziness to say we don't know to some degree what Jesus looked like. Let me go briefly over some points with you just to dispel some things. First, olive skin. Olive skin is not light brown or what is considered Middle Eastern in complexion. We really need to knock it off with that frame of mind. Most olives we know of come in three distinct colors: black, green, and dark brown. If you contend that he, the Messiah, was olive skinned, he did not have the skin color of the people who now occupy that land. The truth is right there in front of you. Jesus did not have long hair. In 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verses 14 and 15, it definitively says, "Does not nature itself teach you that if a man wears long hair, it is a disgrace for him? But if a woman has long hair, it is her glory, for her hair is given to her for a covering." This is New Testament for those of you that think the laws were done away with. The only time an Israelite was allowed to grow his hair long was when they took the special vow of the Nazarite. You can do the scholarship for yourself in Numbers chapter 6, verses 1 through 21. Jerusalem was part of Africa all the way up until the 20th century. In the 1850s and 60s, the Suez Canal was built, connecting the Mediterranean Sea to the Indian Ocean by crossing through the Red Sea. Yeah, the Red Sea of the Bible. After that, an American naval strategist named Alfred Thayer Mahan popularized the term Middle East, where previously the region was considered the northernmost part of Africa. Look it up. And if you know anything about history, or even care to know the truth, we know that Egypt was a black country, and not what is being depicted as in these movies. That region was black. I say all of that to say this. If Jerusalem was part of North Africa, and the predominant population was black-skinned, wouldn't it make sense that the Israelites were dark-skinned African people? And I don't want to hear anything about as you move away from the equator, people become lighter. That's just lazy science. The region is populated with lighter-skinned people due to being conquered by the invading Persian armies. These armies were purported to descend from Greco-Grecian cultures, which are definitely not African. Look that up as well. In the scriptures, Joseph was told by an angel to escape Herod's wrath with Mary and Jesus into Egypt And God did that because he knew they would blend in with the black Egyptians there. Read Matthew chapter 2, verses 13 through 23 and familiarize yourself with that story. But let's get to the heart of the matter. Does the Bible tell you what Jesus looked like? Well, even I have to admit that it doesn't give you the detail that most of us want. Most of you want a description based on today's standards, and that's just nonsensical. But because the Most High knew that the powers that be would confuse the simple-minded and lazy as to what the Messiah actually looked like, he made sure he left no doubt that we would have some semblance of truth. John the Revelator wrote in Revelation about what he saw. Jesus was revealed. In Revelations chapter 1, verse 14 and 15, and in his revealing, John says two important things. He said that Christ's hair was white like wool, as white as snow. Now, some of you would say that this is just some other way of saying his hair was white. That's it. But why the redundancy? Why did God give you texture and color? And don't get caught up on the context of white like. The woolly description is not by accident, so that we can know he was part of a race of people that had woolly hair. And what race of people predominantly has woolly hair? The next description speaks to his skin color, like fine brass, as if burned in a furnace. Brass is already brown, and if it's burned, it gets darker. So the Messiah was a shiny black brother. Now, I know there'll be scoffers out there that still think that it doesn't matter, that these descriptions mean nothing entirely. But that's their prerogative. But if you can read English and extrapolate with any accuracy, coupled with secular history, the secular history of that region, you could and should come to the obvious conclusion, at least to the color of the people group he belongs to. And that famous depiction of Jesus is wrong and deceptive. But I'm not done. If this breakdown isn't enough, let's go back to something I mentioned earlier in this video. Remember, I said that no one knows what God looks like and cannot look upon him without dying. Well, as with anything else, God can do whatever he wants to do. He can give you visions of him that you can handle, like a burning bush, a pillar of fire, or appear to you in a dream. Let's talk about Daniel. Daniel was given a vision of heaven, and the Most High gave him a vision of what he would look like in human form. So let's check this out. In Daniel chapter 7, verse 9, it reads, I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool. His throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. First of all, the Ancient of Days is referring to God. Straight up, Google it. And did you catch that? The wool part? Again, what nation of people predominantly have woolly hair? Need I say more? Listen, you'll have those that say that it doesn't matter as long as we follow the teachings of Christ. And that may be true. But these are the same people that if you ask them to get rid of their trinkets and popular depictions of Jesus, if it doesn't matter, they would not. Because it does matter. It matters in the sense that if someone was purposefully misrepresenting your image, your behaviors, and your character, you would want to sue them. Identity means everything. If you had never met your father, but was given a caricature of him as the basis of what you know about him, and then you finally meet him, would you not be confused or hurt or feel betrayed? Not to mention, your father would feel a certain way about it as well. And if you were allowed to know your father before meeting him and you refused it, that would make the father feel a certain way about that too. And maybe not in a good way either. So does it matter what Jesus looked like? Yes, it really does. I'm asking each of you to do some scholarship on your own and to look into what I've put out here today. If you're a scoffer, study some more and tell me where I'm wrong. Out of the scriptures, not what your opinion is. And if you're a believer, look these things up yourself and take the time to study world history as well. There are many secular resources out there that will corroborate what I've put out here in this video. With that, I say have a great rest of your Sabbath and shalom.